Thank you, Trey. How fabulous to have you back here with us. Year since we saw Trey, and like so many of us, we commented on how our hair is getting longer. So, yes, indeed. So, I love that song. Remember, God loves you. I saw a little Facebook post come through my feed this week that speaks to that, and so I just want to share what it said. This beautiful image of this face, all different colors, and the quote on it says, "You will never look into the eyes of someone God does not love." Just take in that idea for a minute. Just imagine with me for a minute. The easy ones, right? The easy ones that we look into their eyes and we say, oh yes, there's the love. But think about the hard ones to love. The ones that we would judge as unlovable, and think about looking through God's eyes at that one and also seeing the beloved. So this is what I've been thinking about this week, and I'm going to start with a scripture right away in my message today, and it's coming from the Song of Songs, or in some Bibles it's called the Song of Solomon. And this particular book of scripture is filled with these passages of love and devotion, and some say that it is words from one lover to another, and some say it is words from the divine to us. And so I'm inviting you to just hear those words and these words in those ways. So here's how. This is coming from the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 7. How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves. Your hair is like a flock of goats. All right, I have to stop with that one for a minute, because you could tell the context, right? The historical context. Now we're comparing the lover's hair to a flock of goats. So you might not hear that today, but nonetheless, in that context, it probably made sense. Your hair is like a flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep just shorn, coming up from the washing. Each has a twin, not one of them is alone. Your lips like a scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is lovely. Your temple behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate. Your neck is like the Tower of David, but with courses of stone on it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors. Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee. I will go to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of incense. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. Now, those words, oh, you are so beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. With that idea that there is no one that God does not love, right? So words can go together, but I'm also thinking about the other side of that passage, which is that it's not just God speaking to us as his beloved, but it is also someone who's speaking to their beloved, like that between a man and a woman that happens. So, I can't help but go back to my own relationship. Gary and I have been married for 36 years, knowing each other for 37 now, and certainly, I recall those early days, right, where, he would look at me and declare my beauty. I was kind of poking at him yesterday thinking, I haven't heard that in a while. Because relationship changes over time. And so when we begin in our relationships from those places of just seeing our beloved in those moments in their perfection, that's how so many relationships begin, that love that's exchanged, and we see one another as the perfection that we are, and then time goes on. And if we're in any kind of a relationship over a long term, then what we'll find is that idea of, oh, you are my beloved and you are perfect, begins to be overtaken by thoughts that we might be holding in mind about our relationship with this one and the ways in which they've let us down in seeing us as beloved and perfect. Because so many times in my life, I have looked outside of myself for that love I need you to give me that love. I need you to give me that joy. I need you to give me that peace. I need you to give me that which I feel like is missing from within me. And I count on you to do that. And therein lies so much of the struggle that we experience with relationships with one another. Because undoubtedly, no matter who we are in relationship with, whether it is a spouse, a partner, or whether it is a friend, or whether it is a sibling, or a parent, or even our beloved child, right? When they came into being, when we gazed at their face for the first time and felt that similar way, oh, my beloved, you are so perfect. And then life goes on, experiences happen, and we find ourselves moving from that place of perfection and being in that place of needing you to show up and give me something or to be different. So after 36 years of marriage, this is what that looks like to me. I want to share an example with you that happened this week. So I'm inviting you in this week to become aware of the thoughts that you're holding, right? The thoughts that keep us from seeing our beloved. And every day, every morning, for 4.5 years, a thought has arisen in my mind. Because you see, 4.5 years ago, I was having breakfast. We had some visitors to our house. They were spending a few nights with us. And as I did many mornings, I had to come to work. I had to come to Unity that day. And so I took my breakfast dishes when I was complete, and I put them up on the kitchen counter. And what I heard Gary say was, the least you can do is clean up your breakfast dishes. And in that moment, all right, I certainly wasn't feeling the perfection of his beloved. I wasn't feeling like he was the perfection of my beloved. I was getting my buttons pushed. I went into, what do you mean the least I can do? Now, I didn't say any of this out loud, mind you. What do you mean the least I can do? Do you not realize I'm getting ready to go to work? Do you know how hard I work? On and on the story began. As I began to build up in my mind, right, a defense around my heart, around myself for those words that came at me, words that are actually pretty benign, that I could have just let roll off my back. But I didn't. I took those words in. And I'm telling you, literally, every day since then, when it's time and I finish my breakfast, I'll head over to the counter and I'll go, well, the least I can do is put them in the dishwasher. And if the dishwasher needs to be emptied, well, then I'll do that too. And if Gary's dishes are there, well, I'll put his in too, because that'll show him, right? It's the craziness that we do. And so I've also become aware that there are many mornings where in the last 4.5 years, I've been busy. I've got to rush off. I've got to do something. And Gary will come up to me in those moments and say, hon, leave the dishes. It's okay. I'll take care of them. And every day that he has said that for 4.5 years, I'll say, no, I'm taking care of them, without ever revealing to him this idea that I'm carrying with me in my mind of the least I can do is put away these dishes. So this week, it happened again. I'm in this rush. I've got a busy day, and he says to me, just leave them, and I respond with my typical response. And after I put my dishes away, I thought to myself, maybe this is the day to finally let go of this thought. Maybe this is the day I could finally set this aside, because I can feel that it's become this defense that I built around me, that I feel my own sense of not enoughness, and in the process I see Gary in his place of not enoughness, and we're meeting together in this place of not enoughness. And where is the beauty of this pure love of the beloved? How perfect you are. And I knew that the only way I could really set aside this idea was to speak it aloud to Gary, to say, this is the thought I've been carrying with me all of this time. And not because I needed him to take that thought back or say I'm sorry for that thought, because he didn't. But it allowed me to own an idea that I'd been carrying in my mind, that kept me from the perfection of the moment, that kept me from feeling the love that he would share with me in a moment, because in my mind, I've got this defense up. And in speaking it aloud, there was like this thought of, oh, I hope he doesn't get mad at this, knowing I've been carrying this for 4.5 years. But we were able to just laugh about it. And now, I'll be honest, so this happened probably Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, today, as I've gone up with my breakfast dishes and that thought wants to arise again, I laugh and I say, oh, there's that thought again, but this has been resolved, and I can let this thought go. And in the process of letting the thought go, I can let the defenses go. And in the process of letting the defenses go, I can then show up from this place of my own enoughness and see him from his place of his enoughness. But it made me think this week about all of the relationships in my life, about all of the people that I meet, about all of the experiences that I have, about all of the thoughts that I may pick up and plant in my mind, and how those thoughts continue to move me when I'm not aware of them. They continue to move me so that I'm meeting each person from this place of the perspective behind this lens of not enoughness, of the way that you showed up that I wished you hadn't. This particular part of the book, and I am using a book for this series, the book Beguiled by Beauty, where we're opening up to seeing the beauty of the divine everywhere. This week is about the beauty of living a life without your why. You know, the beauty that you get to experience when the why is no longer there. And in this, what Wendy is inviting us to in this idea is that we have this why about why we are lovable, about why we are worthy, about why someone would want to be with us. We have to fill in that why somehow. And it happens because that's the way of the world, right? Like our value becomes attached to what we are able to do and to produce. Our value as an adult is how much work am I getting done? How much am I showing up in that work? Am I doing what I should be doing here? And it becomes outwardly focused on what are the results of what's happening. And if the results out there are good enough, if I'm working hard enough, if I'm producing enough, if I'm showing up in the right way, then I will have value. Right? It shows up in the way that we as society treat those in our society that we see as having very little value. You know, the value of the homeless person on the street, for example, that we want to walk by and ignore and not see through the eyes of the beloved, not see as the perfection that they are. Because what are they? Just a homeless person on the street. Of what value is that? And so the world out there would have us believe that our value must come because of the ways that we contribute to the world. And what the Song of Songs is inviting us to is to see ourselves as that place of pure perfection, that place of the beloved of God, just as we are. Without having to do anything to earn it, without having to pray the right way or meditate the right way or do the right things, we simply are beloved. We can detach ourselves then, when we realize that, we can detach ourselves then from the ways that life shows up on the outside based on the work that we're doing. Right? We don't have to attach our value to the outcome anymore. Wendy quotes from the Bhagavad Gita here, which I think is just so beautiful. She said, in the Bhagavad Gita we read, we have the right to the labor, but not the fruits of our labor. Take that idea in for a moment. We have a right to our labor, but not the right to the fruits of our labor. If all we are doing is laboring to experience certain fruits, right, and then those fruits don't show up, then we judge ourselves and others and our work based on that, and we, in the process, misjudge how we are perfect and beloved just the way we are. Now, in that idea, I don't want you to hear, oh, okay, so there's nothing I need to do. I'm the beloved. Ooh, that's a relief. No, when you truly get that you are the beloved, when you truly get that God loves me and that I am filled with that very love that is divine, and I am here to share that love with others, not to make myself worthy, but because that is what I am, it changes everything about how you show up in any particular moment as that love of God. So, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to become aware of our expectations of ourselves, our expectations of our others and our lives, our expectations of God, our expectations of how life will be if we just do it right. We're invited to let go of those expectations, to let go of that why, and simply recognize here now is perfection, is beauty. Why? Because I am the beloved and you are the beloved, and we can meet ourselves in that beloved place. Oh, the perfection of this. Can you catch the beauty of life without a why? As I just kind of did a Google search this week of why. What comes up again and again is why in response to what is our purpose. Like, why am I here? Why am I here living this life? What's this about? So there's this attachment to the why with our purpose. And so what does that look like? If we say, let's set aside the why, how does that then impact our purpose in this moment as well? Because you see, I think a lot of times when we hold this place of why in our mind around purpose, I tend to have a very narrow view of what that purpose will be. But if I can eliminate the why of it, then my purpose can broaden and expand. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, as much as a reminder for myself as it is for you. The greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with all your mind. And the second commandment is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself. What if that's the whole why? What if that's the whole purpose? What if you could let go of any single moment, whatever you're doing in that moment, and simply understand that, oh yeah, here's another moment where I get to be that perfect divine love, and that is really my purpose. That my purpose in any given moment is to show up and be that love of God that I am. Now, it doesn't matter who I'm with. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if I'm alone or if I'm in a big crowd. The purpose is the same. How can I show up and be that love of God here? If all we ever did was take on that one thing, love God, love your neighbor, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's the hardest thing to really live. To really live that understanding that there is not a single face that I can look at that is not a beloved of God. To live that understanding that I don't need you to be any particular way in order to love you. To live deeply into that understanding that I don't have to show up any particular way to be worthy. But that you and I and each one that we see are worthy, beloved. Oh, so beautiful, so perfect. How would that shift the way we showed up with one another if we could let go of those whys? Greg mentioned in his blog last week, as we were talking about the mystery and the wonder and the abyss, he mentioned in his blog last week, the little ones, I have one of those in my life, my granddaughter Zoe. And they get to this certain age and they ask why? 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 Why is the sky blue? Why is there stars? Why? Why? And they do that. We do that as children because we're trying to understand. We're trying to understand the world and the world around us and how it works and how we fit into that world. And so there's this developmental process where the whys are taking us to this place of wanting to understand. But then I was thinking about my own kids when they got to be teenagers and how the whys showed up in those moments. You know, Mom, can I borrow the car to go out tonight? No. Why? Well, because, you know, it's snowy today and I really am not comfortable with you out driving. Why? You know, and the whys will continue as a teenager, really not so much for understanding, but as a way of continuing to prod and push me so that as a parent I might change my mind, right? Like as a tool of getting me to do what they want me to do. It's totally different. At least that was my experience of the teenage why as compared to the little 3-year-old why. And I thought to myself, you know, it's that teenage why that I tended to carry with me into adulthood. That when my whys became not so much because I wanted to understand, but because I wanted to catch something so that I could change your mind. So that I could manipulate you somehow, right? And I find that that's for me what so many of my whys are about. Why is this happening? Why is it that no matter how hard I try, it's just never enough? You know, why are those people not wearing a mask? Why are those people wearing a mask? You know, we've got all of our whys during this particular time, but it is so rare that what we're trying to do is to come together to understand one another, and I am as guilty of that as anybody. So I'm inviting myself, I'm inviting you this week to take these whys that are not for understanding. You know, there are ways to distract ourselves and keep our minds busy into that circle. I've started to call them these worm thoughts that enter my mind, right? That keep us spinning for 4.5 years, going, I'm going to clean up my dang breakfast dishes because it's expected of me, right? Those ideas that we hold, can we set them aside? Can we come into this moment simply with the understanding that there is a gift here, there is beauty here, the beloved is here, it's perfect. More quote that I wanted to share with you. This is from Myrtle Fillmore, her book, How to Let God Help You. And this is what Myrtle says. Here in the silence, we shall know the presence of God and see clearly just how to go about living the life that He is giving us so we may bring forth the order, the beauty, the freedom that He had planned and that are now awaiting for our understanding use. The real purpose of your life is to express the creation of God, to unfold the many departments of your mind which God has planned for you and which will enable you to know and to do His will. When you know that there is nothing for you to worry about, nothing for you to fear, you may then relax and feel happy. And when you know that living as God planned it, here and now, is beautiful, and that you can know just what God's plans are for you, you would be really interested in living, won't you? This is our invitation of setting aside the why, living in a world without a why, to come to be really interested, curious, open, of, wow, what does it look like to love here? What does it look like to see the perfection of this moment? What does it look like to know that God's beloved is here within these eyes that I am looking at? That's our invitation this week. So our practice, as it has been over the last few weeks, is a contemplative practice. And so this is what I'm inviting to you. Maybe you want to set a reminder to spend some time in the silence. Those of you who meditate daily, to sit in the silence, hands open on your lap, further contemplating what expectations and messages are you holding about what you should be. So to just sit there in the silence, open. What do I think I should be? Well, I think you should be, better at meditating. Oh, that's interesting. There's a should, but I am the beloved of God, even if I don't get meditation perfect. Just that, to observe your thoughts and to not judge yourself on those thoughts, but to observe your thoughts and to just release them then in that moment. Here's another one, 2 practices. You can choose to do one or both. So I saw this was suggested for the kids, and I loved this one. Like, if you could draw a heart in your mirror right where your face would end up, and then every day to look at yourself in that mirror and remind yourself, look at you. So beautiful, dearest, so beautiful. Believe this voice of the divine lover. So taking those words from the Song of Solomon, look at you. Look at how beautiful you are. There's not an eye that I could look at that is not a beloved of God, even this one. And whichever practice you take on, both or and, pay attention then to the ways that you move about your day and be discriminatory about the thoughts that you pick up and plant in your mind that 4.5 years later might still be showing up. But there too is a gift to remember. Let us all remember this week, friends. And in the process, we will discover that this world and this life, and yes, this time is filled with beauty and wonder and perfection. Thank you, and God bless.